I've been a Unitarian Universalist for a little over 40 years, and in that time I've been the member of 3 very different congregations. I came to be a UU because it is here that I am able to search my own spiritual path. It is here that I am inspired by our ministers and lay leaders, and it is here that I can engage in social action that embraces our UU principles. When I engage with UUs, either in this building or in the broader community, my heart and head are often touched, and I am better for it. And now, a few announcements. If you're not sure you've been counted by filling out the 2020 census form, we encourage you to go to my2020census.gov, and there you will find either a form or a record if you have completed it and submitted it. Please share this information with your friends and family because it is vitally important that we all are counted. We also want to ask you to take note in the e-update this week for news about UU the Vote. If you are interested in helping to encourage people who embrace UU principles to vote, you will want to volunteer for this opportunity. And now, if we were together in this building, the ushers would be coming down the aisle and a collection plate would be passed around. We can't do that now. And so I encourage you to send your contribution virtually by either logging onto our website, uuflint.org, and pressing the donate button, or by sending a check that is made out to UUCF and send it to the office. And because today is the second Sunday in September, and as is our tradition, we are going to do a second Sunday collection. Our second Sunday collection is for the Genesee County Free Medical Clinic. The free clinic is located in Flint. It was established in 1996 and provides vital health services with doctors, nurses, and pharmacists to individuals and families. There are over 3,500 people and families who receive these free medical services every single year. If you're interested in supporting the free medical clinic as our second Sunday collection, you can send a check made out to UUCF to the office with Second Sunday or free clinic on the memo line, or you can go to the website and do the Donate Now button. And now join me in listening to Jennifer Howard playing our prelude. Our chalice lighting words this morning are, as surely as we belong to the universe, we belong together. We have joined here to transcend the isolated self, to reconnect, to be linked with each other, here on earth, under the heavens, and know that we are at home. And now join me in reading our covenant. Recognizing the richness of diversity, the beauty and wonder of shared worship, and the transforming power of love and service, we gather as a sacred, intentional community to freely seek knowledge and truth, to celebrate the fullness of life, and by our actions to increase goodness and justice.
Our opening words are from Priscilla Murdoch. On this day, we have reason to celebrate. We have reason to be grateful. We have reason to be proud. We gather in the shadow of a world unsure of itself, and yet we have cause to be hopeful. Our forebears have given us an example of perseverance. The problems of the days of our founders were hazardous, but not overwhelming to a determined people. Our own hope lies not only in the inner strength that our religion teaches us to nurture, but also in the example of those who went before to show us the way. We gather that the light of reason, the comfort of kindness, the depth of a growing spiritual life, the outreach of action, and the acceptance of our own goodness and potential always be our inspiration and the source of our continuing gratitude to our ancestors who have carried the torch that we continue to hold high.
I arrived here in 1962 after being part of Unitarian Universalist churches in San Antonio and Ann Arbor. Following the directional sign, which used to be at the corner of Miller and Ballinger, my husband and I entered with our baby girl in a basket. Years later, she was married in what is now our chapel. All 3 of our children were dedicated here. First, I was the newsletter editor at a time when it was reproduced by mimeograph. I organized several lay services. I was on worship, membership, and endowment committees, twice on the search committee, 4 times on the Congregational Ministerial Relations Committee. I helped write our covenant and joined in arranging the contest for a painting attesting to our welcome to lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender persons. The winning painting is hanging just outside our side doors. Our annual Continental General Assembly found me a delegate 23 times. We came during a lengthy period of lay direction. I found I missed a sense of thematic continuity in the services. It also seemed to me to be a time of fuzzy leadership. Wade Still Sharp is a minister for whom we have named one of our meeting rooms. With his first wife, Martha, he saved many children from the Nazis, arranging for their transport to the United States. A founder of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, he is a UU hero. However, he was not a good fit for our congregation, with his patrician and somewhat authoritarian ways. Our orders of service even had footnotes. One thing we can be grateful to Waystel for is our back lawn. The land used to drop quickly down to the creek behind our property. He gave a construction company permission to dump many loads of landfill in that space, creating the current expanse. At the time, I was upset with him, believing, rightly or wrongly, that he had made the decision without consultation with the board. I remember a contentious congregational meeting where the prevailing sentiment was for him to leave. Paul Killinger was an expert woodworker who built the pulpit now in the chapel. He helped institute small art fairs here. He was a pipe smoker. We have a different view of smoking now, but then you could follow the smell of his tobacco down the hall to his office. He had a home in Colorado where he went during his summer vacation. At one service, he played recordings of Rocky Mountain streams. As befitted the time period, Paul spent many hours doing draft counseling and abortion counseling, and he led memorial services that acknowledged people's warts as well as their virtues. Bruce Marshall's worship services always included much humor. He made unusual choices of recorded music, including country, to share with us on Sunday mornings. They were always fitting. He introduced me to the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band. He arranged for an annual golf outing. Bruce was both strong and gentle. Sometimes he was so understanding and quiet as to be unnerving. He conducted a class on listening, which was a strength of his. Charlotte Cowton shepherded us through the pains and joys of our new building. She is now our minister emerita. She was divorced while in Flint and came out as a lesbian, helping us, me especially, understand much more about human sexuality. Some of us drove to Rochester, New York. when she was accepted into final fellowship, giving her flowers as she left the platform. Charlotte conducted superb memorial services, spending 20 or more hours talking with family and friends, then weaving a picture of the person that was always fuller than what we had previously seen. Charlotte gave great hugs along with wide grins. Lisa Friedman came from a strong UU family with Jewish heritage. Once she held a Seder at her house, helping us learn more about Jewish traditions. It was said of her that she was wise beyond her years and an old soul in a young person. We got to witness the start of her family with husband Wayne. Their 2 sons were born here. Her services evoked strong emotions, in me at least, with life lessons from the everyday. When she moved to Minnesota, where Wayne had a good job offer and his parents lived, more than a few tears were shed. I was among many who understood but were sad and felt it was way too soon. David Carl Olson came to us with a history of organizing urban workers and maintained his interest in civic engagement. He was a vocal musician who sometimes sang for us. He pushed for paid music staff. He was also an equity actor. For many years, he worked at UU summer youth camps at Ferry Beach in Maine, which gave him a great outlet for his creativity. David was an optimist who liked gardening. Deanie Oliva was a sun worshiper and a dog lover. She treated us to sermons that reflected much research into social issues, along with suggestions for action. Deanie exhibited strong interfaith and community involvement. She led downtown demonstrations for marriage equality and was quick to marry same-sex couples when it became legal. Early in Flint's water crisis, she was allied with a group of volunteers going door to door to assess householders' needs. There were many interims between our settled ministers. They helped us see ourselves, own our history, heal our wounds, celebrate our courage, and give testimony to our faith. They showed us how to develop strength for the future. One interim I have particular fond memories of is Shelley Page. Among the creative ways she brought us into contact with our past was to walk us on a Sunday from this sanctuary down to the chapel to feel the space of our early services. The World is our denominational magazine. That's the title of it, The World. In the latest issue, I note that Shelley is beginning a developmental ministry, defined as addressing long-standing concerns specific to individual congregations. That seems like an apt placement to me. All Flint ministers brought unique talents and human frailties. They put great care into crafting sermons and counseling. Each was at a different stage in education or credentialing, or life itself. They shared their inner lives with us. They dealt with crisis, sometimes more than one. They helped us on to the next steps. I am grateful to them all.
Good morning. My name is Erin Rockefeller, and I am the Director of Faith Development. I hope you'll join me this morning for a meditation as we breathe together In and out. The church is a body. May this body breathe and be together in the spirit of hope. May it be held by comfort. Those who seek consolation, may they find it here in the solace of this moment. The church is a body. It is as strong as all the people who have ever gathered within its walls. It is the power of all they dreamed and all they have done. The church is a body. It is as vulnerable as the most newborn and untried of its members. It is ancient and it is ever new. The church is a story. It is the story of lives that are interwoven, brought together in this place and in this time, for the single purpose of caring for one another and helping one another along the arduous path from birth to death. The church is a vision. It is a vision of unity amid diversity. It is a vision of reverence for all creation. It is a vision that beckons us beyond the concerns of our own skins. In the silence, may we abide as one body in the spirit of faith, hope, and love that is the story and vision of this church. And now please join me as we listen to Something Beautiful by Edie and Jennifer.
Though days be dark with storms and burdens weigh my heart, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. Though sorrows heal my soul and burdens make me strong, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. My sister in my heart, my brother in my song, though troubles wait at every turn, I know I can go on. So brothers, take my hand, and sisters, sing my song. When hope awaits at every turn, I know I can go on.
You know that feeling you get when you're looking at old, faded photographs of your ancestors, of their old houses, of their old cars? Those photos can often make you feel less alone, make you feel like you too are a part of the play of history. And whether you are famous or not, you are on that stage, and you are part of the play. I recently went through our church archives looking for pictures for this morning's slideshow, and I had the same feeling. That feeling that sometimes makes you say, oh wow, I am part of this story. Hopefully our service will give everyone that feeling, and I'd like to make sure of that by giving you a verbal walkthrough of our archives, but at a fast-forward speed of the rate of 1 second per year. 90 years in 90 seconds. And I do this for the many people who think all details are boring, no matter how important those details may be to other people. And please don't try to hear it all. The idea is to let this wash over you so that you get the feeling of the time and the energy and the commitment it takes to keep a church going for 90 years. So here it is, our 90-year story in 90 seconds. In 1930, 15 people went to the Durant Hotel because an ad in the Flint Journal said, "If you're interested in liberal religion, come meet with me, Dr. Joy of the American Unitarian Association, the AUA." Those 15 people decided to start a church, and the AUA paid for the minister for 7 years. So they met in the Durant for a while, and they met in the YWCA for a while, and they met in the old Pengelly building for a while too. And it was originally a factory, and later they built wagons there, and it was a car factory too. But even later, the United Auto Workers also met there, as did the Communist Party. But we met on the second floor, and the owner of the bar below us got interested in our church and became a member. In 1937, we made a deal with a Congregational church and used space with them, and the people liked it so much that it became the Congregational Unitarian Church. But then the Congregationalists lost their building to the foreclosure in 1940, so they all went together and bought a house on Clifford Street in 1941. And that worked out fine until 1957, when the Congregationalist churches in America became the United Church of Christ. Now, most of the Clifford Street Congregational Unitarians decided to become just straight-up Unitarians, and some didn't want to be purely Unitarian, of course, and so they went to the Woodside Baptist Church. Well, there was a fire in that Clifford Street house church in 1942 when a furnace overheated, and that cost $3,000 to fix, and we also bought the house next door for a parsonage. Then in about 1958, we decided to build a church on Ballinger Highway, and we did. And in 1986, we built on a new sanctuary and meeting hall and kitchen, and we also put up a bell tower too. We've been in this building for 60 years now, and we've helped a lot of people in 90 years and found strength and friendship among our like-minded members who did not have to search for the one-eds to find a place to go. In 2019 and 2020, the COVID pandemic kept us from meeting in the sanctuary, but we continued to find new ways to be a church. "90 years is a long time to keep anything going, unless you're a business that makes some essential product that everyone needs. And I think that description fits us very well. I admit, though, that I wonder how many overly long, sometimes boring, committee meetings did it take to keep us in business for 90 years? Maybe 4,000 meetings or more? If you figure 50 meetings per year times 90 years, that's 4,500 committee meetings. The mothers and fathers of our church didn't die for our sins, but they did take a lot of committee meetings for us, so we owe them a lot. The history of our congregation isn't just all these interesting details about meeting places and foreclosures and church fires and overly long committee meetings. Instead, I think the most important part of our history is the record of the energy and passion it took to keep our congregation together and making our indispensable product. After all, we live in an age where many people no longer think that going to church is important. In the future, many churches may become online-only churches or vanish altogether. But that will not be our story. It won't be our story because liberal religion isn't a church like other churches. It's more like a force of nature. Most other churches are centered around the words or acts of a famous person or around the history of one culture and how they think about God. We don't fit that description at all. Instead, we meet because of who we are, because of the role we must play in the drama, in the romantic comedy, in the absurdist stage play that is life. And our role, our character in that play, is always someone who brings in the light found in a new way of thinking or being. That light of progress is the product of our business that comes from our very nature, which comes from nature itself. And we each have plenty of lines to speak from the stage of this long-running production. The scope of history is long. So the 90 years of this congregation's existence puts us, at most, in the middle of Act 1, Scene 1. The light we carry onto the stage of planet Earth, the essential commodity of our business, comes in many forms. In our 90 years, we have nurtured the light of women's rights, workers' rights, animal rights, civil rights, gay rights, and the complete list, as you know, is too long to mention here. Of course, it's true. Many people don't appreciate that what we bring is badly needed progress, but their children, their grandchildren will grow and prosper in the light of progress we help create. Young people are growing up knowing that same-sex marriage is normal, that racism still exists and must be defeated, and on and on. They don't see these things, these ideas, as progress. They see them as the way things are and the way things should be. That means we've done our job, even though there's always more to do. And so be it. I'm guessing that all of you will be happy to be someday a faded photograph or a sentence or two in this church's archives. A part of our history, of our long tradition that on some future anniversary will make someone say, "Oh, wow, I'm part of this story." Most of us may never be truly famous, but we can be a proud member of the cast that brings the light of light, the gift of light, to generations that we will never see. Such actors need never feel alone because they have an important part to play in the hit play of history. And that play of history, it needs them so desperately.
Gather the family, here we belong, and welcome, good stranger, come in. Our voices together, all singing one song, and it's here that the future begins. Our ancestors came from far away, from 1,000 traditions and kin. What we all share together as we stand here today, with a chance to start over again. Our measure of worth's not in power or gold. The greatest truth comes from the heart. It's how we take care of the weak and the old. This is the place we can start. And so like the forest, our roots hold the past, while our branches reach into the sky. Let our gift to our children be family that lasts, and a future to which they can fly. Gather the family, here we belong, and welcome, good stranger, come in. Our voices together, all singing one song, and it's here that the future begins. Our voices together, all singing one song, and it's here that the future begins.
Gather the family. When Mustard's Retreat played that song last week, I thought, That's what an in-gathering service is all about. In-gathering is the traditional start of the church year. Kids are back to school and summer vacations are over and the camping equipment is put away and the routines are supposed to be back to normal. Well, we all know that everything is not what it used to be, but I believe the spirit of our coming together in an in-gathering is the same. Gather the family. Here we belong. Welcome strangers. Come in. Our voices together all singing one song, and it's here where the future begins. We're thankful that our congregation continues to thrive in these challenging times. We have been a progressive light in Flint for the last 90 years. These are reasons to celebrate. And as the song goes, our ancestors came from away, far away, from 1,000 traditions and kin. I think about those original 15 folks from different religions, professions, philosophies, responding to an ad, looking for people interested in liberal religion. Imagine walking into the Durant Hotel for that first meeting and trying to identify the 14 other liberals. You couldn't hang out in that parking lot looking for bumper stickers or seeing who got out of the Prius or the Subaru. How were you going to find those other liberals? Graphic t-shirts hadn't been invented yet, and Birkenstocks hadn't quite made their way to America. But somehow they did find each other, and the man from the AUA in Boston. Remember, this was 30 years before the Unitarians and Universalists had merged. So Dr. Joy and several other speakers spoke to them for several Sundays, and they must have been pretty convincing, because on the 6th Sunday that they met, that group, which had nearly doubled the size by then, since that initial meeting, they signed a membership book. And they formed the first Unitarian Church of Flint. And they signed a book under a hand-lettered, written covenant that read, "In the love of truth and the Spirit of Jesus, we unite for the worship of God and the service of man. We, the undersigned, desiring to establish a liberal church in Flint, Michigan, do hereby affix our names as witness of our loyalty and support." Now, there was also a handwritten caveat. After all, they were now officially Unitarians. So, right under it, which read in parentheses, it is understood that by signing the following covenant, it does not carry any binding theological implication upon any of the signers thereof. But I do believe that those first members saw the importance and the gravity of what they were doing. And although ours is a rational religion, forming this congregation was an act of love and commitment. As the song goes, our measure of worth's not in power or gold. The greatest truth comes from the heart. The people that signed that membership book, they were both powerful and wealthy, educated or not, poor, old, young. And as the song continues, it's how we take care of the weak and the old, and like the forest, our roots hold the past. Well, that's how come we've been here so long. Looking through those 90 years of archives, you expect to find pictures of buildings and papers about mortgages and budgets. But what struck me is the incredible names and faces of those people who built the UUCF family. So many of them. Folks who took care of the sick and ran bake sales and cleaned and fixed the building and the grounds, who cooked for the picnics and organized ski trips and hay rides, who taught the children, who fed the hungry and built signs and ran benefits. The relationships that endured in the toughest times, the people that you knew would have your back. And I'm confident in saying that because I read notes in those archives that said things like, I cannot imagine not being a Unitarian. For 40 years, the UU Church of Flint has been a foundation in my life. Or another note that said, I don't think I'd be a minister if it weren't for UUCF. Or a newspaper article that I read about the resignation of the first minister of this church. It said that he was going back to Boston after 3 years in Flint. So what, you might think, resignation? Well, what's interesting about it is he was only intending to stay for 1 month. And that says something about this place. I remember the first time I came here as a consultant from Toledo to talk to people here about your ministerial search. And there was some concern about attracting a minister. I asked the folks to tell me about what they liked about living here. And I heard about the amazing cultural, educational, and outdoor activities and opportunities there were here. And then I told them what I saw and felt about Flint and all the positive attributes that I saw in the congregation itself. I felt that there would be ministers that would see UUCF's value. Well, I think that first minister must have felt it too. A resilience, perhaps, a spirit of compassion and care, a sense of history, and perhaps determination to survive and thrive well into the future. You know, that gather the family song ends, while our branches reach into the sky, let our gift to our children be family that lasts and a future to which they can fly. I believe that's what people in this congregation have always been about. Founded by a few individuals who were brave enough to come forward and say, I'm a religious liberal. And we're still a family of free thinkers who wish to be a bright light of love, justice, and reason for at least another 90 years.
Our closing words today are those of Priscilla Murdoch. As we bring to close our tribute to the journeys we have made through the years, let us be mindful of the enduring bond that keeps us together. Let us remember those who went before and paved the road for us to travel. Let us remember our pioneers with admiration and gratitude, with honor and with joy. Memories are for us to cherish and to share. The future is for us to mold together. Let us be about that work. Let us go in peace. Please join me as we extinguish the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.